So, what does Pokemon that will surprise us mean, Mystic? And that is a good question, one that needs an explanation, and thus you will be served one. The Pokemon that will surprise you are Pokemon that have some rather interesting things about them that you didn't know, unless you're a super diehard Pokemon fan. Whether or not it be lore implications, movesets, competitive viability, or a mix of all three. For instance, while not on this list, when I learned Ogerpon outright murked the Loyal 3, I was pretty surprised. Didn't think that Pokemon was gonna have the cute ogre just outright put those dudes in the grave in a tale of revenge. So, with this out of the way, let's get right into it. Also, Mismagius, worst team for red and blue, description and iCard. Thank you. So, did you know that Glalie is as strong as a mythical? Oh, you don't think I'm being all that serious? By all accounts, you can claim that I am full of it, but you will soon find that Glalie has a base stat total comparable to that of... Phione. Okay, yeah, it's comparable to the weakest mythical, but the fact that they have the same exact stat spread is pretty hilarious to me. It's also funny that if Glalie suddenly gets moody, it's arguably stronger than Phione, and a lot of other stuff, since moody is inherently a busted ability. With that, I'm moving on. So, funny thing about Roaring Moon and how power creep works? Did you know that Roaring Moon can outdamage Mega Salamence? An Adamant Booster Energy Roaring Moon's Earthquake does over half to a physically defensive Toxapex, and guaranteed 2-hit KOs it. Adamant Mega Salamence's Earthquake 2-hit KOs if you're very lucky. However, if you're interested in spamming Flying Stab, Salamence's Double Edge is stronger than Terra Flying Acrobatics, but you take recoil damage in return. Roaring Moon is also debatably better than Mega Mence as a whole because Stealth Rock neutrality, knockoff, and U-turn, as well as getting to hold an item, and not using up a Mega slot arguably feels better than Mega Salamence's one advantage of a slightly higher speed and base attack, alongside Fire Blasts for steel types. Honestly, the fact that Mega Salamence and Mega Gallade are worse than their Paradox Pokemon counterparts really does go against the message of Pokemon. Who needs bonds when I can go to a cave real quick and pick up better versions of the Megas with less work involved? Crazy. Alright, let's be real. We all know the Tapus as a whole are pretty good competitively, with the exception of poor old Bulu, who can't seem to catch a break. Nor can it. I don't know, catch Axis the Grassy Glide. We also know that the Tapus are pretty benevolent for the most part, being guardian deities who protected the islands of Alola, and that is pretty neat. Did you know that these Mons are also pretty savage in their own right? Yeah, we know that Tapu Koko murders those Spearow in your defense, which is pretty messed up. But the other Tapus have some rather rude things about them too. Anyone who recklessly approaches Tapu Fini may end up having a whole calamity sent their way. Tapu Lele is a cruel monster who feels no guilt about it. Tapu Bulu is lazy, making the plants do its work for it, and is violent enough to crush you if it thinks you're an enemy. Oh, and did I mention that Tapu Koko has a hair trigger temperament? If you remotely put it in a bad mood, yeah, it's gonna mess you up and then outright forget it ever met you later. These Pokemon are guardian deities, but as deities, they see you as beneath them, and will not hesitate to let you know that. Alright, so did you guys know that at some point in the Smogon community, Ursaluna was banned from National Dex? To this day, I still wonder how it wound up in National Dex Ubers. Now, with that said, it isn't banned anymore. It is currently wound up in National Dex UU, which has made it one of the weirdest bans. Now, I don't pay enough attention to the National Dex metagame to understand why it was ever banned, but I'm gonna guess that it had something to do with Trick Room before people realized that Trick Room wasn't that good, and it fell off. Now, with that said, despite how angry Ursaring is all the time, another interesting thing I've noticed about Ursaluna is that it doesn't seem to be anywhere near as malicious as Ursaring. Blood Moon is pretty rough, but Ursaluna, from its one appearance in Legends Arceus, seems to be a pretty relaxed Pokemon. Maybe they'll update Pokedex entries with time and it'll be made into a demon. But right now, it's just a dirt bear that's been tamed by the human race so we can use it to hunt treasures. Houndstone, funny enough, is surprising to me because it has one very interesting fact about it I thought I'd share. Out of all the dog Pokemon in all 9 generations, this one is the most loyal. The other dogs are known for being pretty loyal for the most part, which makes me wonder how loyal Houndstone is. Then again, given that lovingly mourned Pokemon are reborn as Houndstone, then one can only conclude that it's as loyal to the trainer as the trainer was to it. This is actually kinda wholesome. What a good boy. So, for those who don't pay too much attention to the battle animations, or mostly just play on Showdown, or just haven't ever used this Pokemon, I have a rather neat little fact about Skeledirge. So while I don't really know where Fuecoco itself lies into this, the sombrero on Crocolar's head is an egg. And when it evolves into Skeledirge, if you pay attention to its nose, you'll see that there's a tiny little bird there. Yeah, that was an egg that hatched into a bird. And when Skeledirge uses Torch Song, that bird is actually the one attacking as it transforms into a phoenix, slams into the enemy, and then respawns over as the tiny little bird you see on Skeledirge's nose. I actually really like this little bird and crocodile motif that they have going on, and I think it's not the most represented Pokemon fact. Now, if you've played Generation 5 and picked Tepig as your starter, you'd begin to notice that Emboar has access to Scald. And back before Generation 8, it and Volcanion were the only fire types to have that move in their kit, even if they were never using it for obvious reasons. However, not even Emboar, Centiskorch, and Colossal are the oddest uses of Scald. The oddest Pokemon in my eyes that has ever had access to Scald is Raikou. Yeah, that's right. Raikou actually has access to the move Scald, which I find to be incredibly hilarious. Not to mention, in terms of the legendary trio, this means that Entei is the only one who doesn't have access to it, since Suicune clearly does, as well as Walking Wake. I wonder, will Raging Bolt also get Scald? And then whatever thing Entei becomes won't? I hope it's that way. It sounds like it would be pretty silly. So, as it turns out, Mixed Palafin is absolutely a thing. Yeah, base 106 special attack would make it pretty obvious that you could theoretically run Mixed Palafin, but it's more optimal to do the physical set, yeah I know. But listen for a second. Some of these moves that Palafin happens to have access to are really silly. Boom Burst, Grass Knot, Aura Sphere, and Draining Kiss. Boom Burst and Aura Sphere, I can kind of get. That is some superhero stuff, I'm sure. But what is Grass Knot a reference to? Is Draining Kiss a reference to Rogue from the X-Men? I do not understand. Mega Mawile is physically stronger than Zacian due to the nerf it received to its stats in Gen 9. Although, if you want to get real technical, I'm pretty sure Choice Band Zacian Hero is stronger than both at the cost of being less good overall. However, at this moment in time, Adamant Natured Zacian Crown with the nerf to its physical attack is actually weaker than Adamant Mega Mawile. Because at level 100, Adamant Mega Mawile with huge power clocks in at a 678 physical attack at level 100, while Zacian Crown with Intrepid Sword clocks in at 657 with Adamant. Now, how much does this actually do? Because Zacian is better in practically every way regardless. But it's amusing to think about the fact that Mega Mawile theoretically could have played a part in solving the Darkest Day, if it happened to be around for it. The idea of Mega Mawile using its giant mouths to bite on into Eternamax Eternatus like a dog biting a hand is pretty hilarious to me. Also, that took me about 5 attempts to record. Eternitus, Eternimax, Eternit, like a tongue twister. Ugh. So, to me, this was actually the most surprising thing. I ran the numbers, and Galar Zapdos, known for being basically the Looney Tunes Roadrunner, isn't actually that fast. So, according to the Pokedex, it says that Galarian Zapdos' speed clocks in at 180 miles per hour. That's really cool and all, but I can name Pokemon off the top of my head that are faster, and they're not even legendaries. Despite having a higher speed stat than Arcanine, stat-wise, is not faster than it in actual lore. Arcanine can run 6,200 miles in a single day and night. So let's say that Arcanine doesn't need sleep, right? And we say it runs for 24 hours straight. You know, just to really lowball its speed. That's still 258.3 miles per hour. And this is at minimum, by the way. Arcanine was pretty much power crept from birth. And that's that. I hope you guys were surprised by some of this information, because in some of these, I definitely was. With that said, to get my mind off the fact that Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant are better than Mega Gallade and Salamence, I'm just gonna go get some ice cream. I'm definitely gonna need it.